Hello, welcome to Flory Models Daily Show. Here we are on Friday the 15th of July 2016, and today started like this. Hello, welcome to Flory Models Daily Vlog. Here we are on Friday morning. Difficult one this morning, obviously, with the attack in Nice, in France. Terrible, 84 people killed. Obviously our thoughts, prayers and condolences with all the families and everybody involved. Now I'm going to be honest with you, this is take 5 of this, and I've spent an hour trying to do this particular vlog, and when I first started it, obviously very angry, and I went on a rant. Take 2, pretty much similar. Take 3, trying to calm down, trying to put this in perspective. So yeah, this is now take 5 of trying to do this vlog. I think what I was trying to say in all the other vlogs is that, obviously here at Flory Models we put ourselves in a little bubble. You go to your modelling desk and the world is out of sight, and you can just focus on what you do with your modelling and everything else like that. As I say, I'm trying not to go on a rant again, so bear with me on this one because I did. Also, I want to explain why we lock down threads as soon as I start, because it might come across as that we're being a little bit hard, a little bit sort of lifeless, and that we are in this bubble and we don't care about what happens in the world. Obviously we do. Hans last night, one thread popped up, obviously when the attack first happened, and he immediately locked it, put down a full everything about why and all the bits and pieces like that. But I just wanted to explain why we do that, and it's really brought it home, especially when I started doing vlog 1. It lasted about 15 minutes and I really went off on one, and I will definitely not be airing it, because it is that sort of knee-jerk reaction as we get, because obviously I woke up this morning like the rest of us did, and probably we found out what was happening, and it was a case of like, you do that thing of like, these idiots, what the hell they think they are, that go and bomb them all, and and as you say, but at the end of the day that isn't going to solve anything. We just can't let this happen. It's as simple as that. We can't let it get to us. We need to show these people that we are stronger, bigger, better than them. And I have a way of dealing, or the way I think of this, with Daesh or ISIS, whatever you want to call them, terrorists in general. The thing is, you have to remember, is they think they're correct. Okay, they've been, I wouldn't even say brainwashed, but their belief, the way they're taught and everything else, is to think that this guy in a truck thought he was doing the correct thing. I describe it like alcohol. Okay, it's like the drunk guy in the pub who starts lashing out at a total stranger he's never seen before, because in his head he thinks he's right. Okay, and this guy who's being attacked, you think, whoa, and then his mate jumps in and whacks the drunk guy. We've all been there, we've all seen it, okay, and that this is it. But it is that thing that you can't let things like that get to you. You then can't go out and say, well, I'm not going to that pub again because it's full of drunk idiots and all the rest of it, because it's just one guy. These are like individuals, it's probably, a couple of, maybe 100,000 individuals in the world who make terror. Okay, and they seem to get off on it for whatever reason. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't be dealt with. I'm not saying that they should be scraped from the planet. Okay, because quite clearly they should. But it is that thing where getting angry and nasty about it isn't going to help. And that's why we locked down the forum. And we stop threads from this appearing, because otherwise you're going to do what I did, to be honest, in vlog 1, 2 and 3 of this, trying to do this morning, where you literally just turn around and you're like, no, we're not going to have it, and you get angry, and it's born out of frustration, because there's nothing any of us can do. There's nothing any of us can do to stop this. There's nothing that anybody can do to sort of, end this. Okay, so at the moment, our best way of dealing with it is just to carry on. And I think this is what I was trying to get over in the vlogs I've done before, that, at the end of the day, we have our hobby, we have our bubble, we have our Flory family here. We all have grief, let's face it. I know obviously on the forum a lot of you guys have lost family members, long-term illnesses, things like that, and we've lost members as well. I've alone this year, I think I've done 4 or 5 members that have obviously passed away, and I obviously speak to the family left behind, widows, things like that, and try and help them along with various things, obviously subscriptions and all those bits and pieces we stop, and things that go along. But all of them say how great time they had with us, and with Flory Models and the friends they've met and all the bits and pieces like that. And I think that's true. But what I'm trying to get over is that this is our hobby. Okay, this is with the bit where you've had a terrible day at work, you've had a death in the family, you know, stressed out. You can literally come along, get to your bench, your cutting mat, whatever, okay, and then it's your own space and it's your own world to do what you like, to create what you like. You know, this is the other thing as well. I mentioned when I was trying to do this before, is that it seems hypocritical when, you know, you're sort of saying about this how terrible it is, yet here I am modelling a weapon of war, a weapon of death and destruction. Its sole purpose in life, from design drawing to its final flight, was to kill people. That's all it has ever done. So it seems hypocritical when you're then saying about, oh, how terrible it is. But as again, it is one of those things. It's my personal thing. It's my personal space. It's what I enjoy doing. It's like when I fly online. It's like when I'm, you know, obviously airsofting and various things like that. It's your hobby. It's what you enjoy doing. But it's not going around killing anybody. Okay, and at the end of the day, that's what I think our hobby is. It is a hobby where we can just say, right, okay, this is it. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to build this, and I'm going to pay homage, tribute, you know, to the guys who flew them, no matter what they are. It doesn't matter if it's in the right or the wrong. At the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do, you know, as you make your way through with it. So anyway, as I say, it's a little bit of a sad morning. As I say, it's terrible when these things happen, especially when it's on the innocent who are just out to watch a firework display. So obviously we feel deep condolences and obviously solidarity with France. You guys have been hit far too much. You've been through so much as a nation, and you're facing it again and again. You know, I don't think there's a right or wrong to it before everyone starts asking. I think it's just one of those things that we have to carry on. We have to show that these things, they don't going to change anything. You know, this is what we do. We're not, you know, put off. We're not terrorised. You know, they call them terrorists because it terrorises people. We're not terrorised. You're a bully. They're just bullies and trying to stamp their authority. It's the drunk person in the pub. Just because he's the loudest and throwing fists around doesn't make him right. You know, usually he's a jerk. That's a jerk. Anyway. So this morning, to be honest, when I first did this vlog, I completely lost my mojo for modelling today. I thought, oh, we're going to do other things. I didn't really want to work on a fighter. But now I'm sort of thinking about it, your rational head comes on, and this is why it's a take 5, and it's taken me an hour, because I've started this just before 9, so it's taken me an hour to do these. But hopefully now I can sort of, yeah, okay, that's it. We're not going to be bullied, we're not going to be pressurised. We're just going to move on and do what we do best, which is our part is the hobby. Anyway, Captain Phasma I will put up with you around about lunchtime. We'll get her up. Okay, a sci-fi, that doesn't matter. Build that as much as you like. And I am going to do a little bit of work on the 190, because again, you know, it's the brave pilots that flew in it, and that's the thing I do it for. You know, that's why I model make. I like to keep history alive, and it's honouring the bravery of the person who flew it, who fought in it, because obviously at the end of the day, they believe they were doing right, you know, by them, as we said before. Anyway, that's it for me this morning. As I say, condolences and our thoughts and prayers go with all the people of France. I think there's one English they're saying at the moment, just the latest bit, was injured, but as I say, I think it's terrible with the children especially. So anyway, after last night's events in France, I must admit I just couldn't really get into doing the FW190, so I thought, okay, we're going to push on because I was going to do it anyway. So I've been working on the Dolphin. So as we can see, or hopefully you can see, we've done quite a bit to this one. Now I know this was supposed to be a live video thing. Let me just clear some space so you guys can see what I can see. Okay, but what we've actually done down here, we've pushed on a little bit with it so I could just literally catch up with Steve, because Steve's a little bit ahead of me. So what I've done is I've put the doors in, I've resecured this window again because I keep holding it here and you end up putting through the door. All right, we've put on our little thing, which is a little bit wobbly even though we pinned it. I've done a couple of cuts of foam just to get that in there. I've got to re-rib it, re-scribe and everything up around this engine because I literally just filled it full of filler and went for it. But generally, hopefully that'll take care of those small little gaps like that. So what I'm going to do now is take it over to the actual spray bay and we can get going and get some actual primer onto this. Give it a quick coat, nothing fancy, just to have a look about rescribing. So I've got a few areas to do in here, but it'll be easier to see, especially around this area, once it's got primer. So I call this sort of rough priming. Chuck it down, make sure it's all okay. If it's okay, and then we can come back in, give it a proper coat of primer then, and then we can push on with it. Right, okay, so over in the spray bay, to be honest, my door keeps falling off. That's because they're not even glued in. The whole point of this one is I was going to have them somewhat of a loose fit, but the last thing you want them to do is popping off whilst you're painting. I'm wondering if I can wedge it with a bit of tack. My favourite way of doing these, we're just getting in there with some blue tack. I think we're gonna wedge it against the door. So literally, just gonna mould it up. Hopefully it won't pull the photo etch off, which is obviously the concern. The big trouble with this entire model has been is all the clear parts. Now the trouble with the clear parts is, if you hold on to it, you push them, you end up pushing windows in and all different bits and pieces. So I'm just sort of halfway like there. To be honest, I've just pushed that glass in again. All right, so primer, just a quick coat of this. So we're using AK's primer microfiller. To be honest, it's quick, it's easy, it's simple, and it's the best primer I'm using at the moment, purely because it's no mess. As I said, this is literally a rough primer job. It's nothing nice, it's nothing precise. It is just to literally give us some coverage so we can see what's going on. So, extractor on, cue the music. Door pulls off. Okay, here we go. Right, one thing I just want to mention on this one, in fact, I'm just going to leave that running a sec because we're a little bit cloudy in here, is something that just happened to me just then. Let's do that. And that is basically, we're clearing it, you can see it literally coming in this side of the room. As good as you know, I've got 3 here, spray booth extractors. Okay, they all extract, they all go up through the window and out through, got 2 ports at the side, okay? The thing is though, if you really go like I've done there, very heavy, you're gonna get it come back in the room, all right? So that is the trouble with it. So always leave it running, normally leave it a little bit longer, and it will pull all those particles in the air back in and out. But that is the difference between an extractor and your normal just a spray booth. The spray booth like these ones, to be honest, you can see on the side here, they've got charcoal filters which capture a lot. This one isn't really worried about that, it's just throwing it clean out of the room. Anyway, getting back on track. 2 things. Firstly, you know, this stuff is really, really nice. If I show you down here, hopefully the camera will work. You might notice we did have some very rough paint jobs. Now it's going to struggle, are we? Why are we struggling so much? Are we zoomed right out? There we go. Okay, but you see how smooth it is? I tell you what, it hates focusing on one colour, this camera. As soon as you put contrast colour in, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I know where you're going now. But you might notice really, really smooth across here. Got rid of all those problems, but I've still got a small line at the top. So what I'm going to do is carry the panel line as it used to be right down around. We're going to add some riveting detail, various bits and pieces all over it, and again go round. But it's smoothed out all the little imperfections all around the back of the tail, especially around the front here. We had that seam running down the front and all the bits and pieces like that, and it is now absolutely fine. So there we go, that is that one done. Now, as we were saying, the big thing is this primer. I know everyone's going to ask me about, oh, we've changed the primer and all the rest of it. If you build up the layers, it will cover everything. It's a micro filler though. So that means by micro, it means doesn't do a lot in theory. It's not like using some of the other fillers we've used and primers that you put them down and it will quite happily cover everything. In fact, I've got a speck on the camera. I hope that's not coming through. But yeah, so there we go. That is on there and done. But what we'll do is we'll rescribe, refill, and take care of all the little gaps, lumps and bumps over this one. But there we go, that is on there. So now I've almost caught up with Steve. Apart from this window, you can see now it's got primer on, how I've pushed it in. So what I'm going to have to do is take the side window off and push them all out, but we're going to do that once it's finished and reseat all the windows and do them properly. But talk about a kit of 2 halves, it's a horrible kit. Fit issues galore. Actually though, it's coming to me something really, really smart. And I think by the time we get some white down onto it, and then we're going to come back in and then going to put the orange onto it, it's really going to pop and it's going to look something very, very special by the time it's got markings on and everything else like that. So there we go. Sort of an improv day, but it's going very well. Oh, just remembered, second thing. Right. A lot of people say about having two airbrushes, one for acrylics, one for lacquers, and it's a question that's come up in the forum, and I did think I'd answer it. Classic example. Now, I'm not going to show you on the camera because it's very hard to see on this camera. The big overheads and everything else are more designed for it, but just for the vlog. Every now and again, when I was spraying this on, this is obviously a lacquer-based, as in a hot product, primer. What happens is I had acrylic from where we've been working on the 190 in the same said airbrush. Okay, so what happens occasionally, it cleans out, softens up all of that acrylic paint that's somewhat somewhere in the airbrush. So what can happen is it pops it out and flicks it out. So that is the only drawback to it. So you just want to be careful that if you have got a lacquer-based product, so just normal your lacquer paints, primers, things like that, and then you've had acrylics in there before, because they can be as clean as what you think is a whistle, and to be honest, I thought it was, but it spat little bits of dark green, and to be honest, it's in a primer coat, it doesn't really matter. But if you were doing it from a normal one, then, you know, perhaps top coats, especially your flat coats, that's like your worst case scenario you can have. You probably don't want that. So yes, I do think it's a good idea to run two airbrushes. That way you're not going to get that cross-contamination. But if you're one of these guys who strip down your airbrush and clean it properly, then you're probably not going to have a problem with it. Just me, I'm lazy, I'm fast, I don't worry about things like that. But I have got two infinities up here, and to be honest, this infinity here, exactly the same. They've both got the 2 mils, identical airbrushes and all the rest of it. I tend to use one for acrylic or one for doing you know, your more lacquer paints, things like that. I tend to use the lacquer one for more doing things like top coating, because I know it's a cleaner airbrush because it's got lacquers going through it, so that's what I do. But I do use two, but it's a question that came up and somebody said, do you use two airbrushes? And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really bother me, but actually, if you might have noticed recently, I've been using this stuff a lot. And now, that was the other question, I'll answer it here, since we're doing a sort of improv day. So a lot of people are saying, oh, you're using lacquers again and things like that. To be honest, I'm almost out of my normal acrylic. I'm out of my airbrush cleaner, my standard one, as you can see, this is an empty one, for Fareoh. So, and I'm out of almost X28. To be honest, I've got 4 bottles of this stuff floating around, so I'm just using it up, so to speak. Is it my one of choice? Am I going back on my word and everything else? A little bit. I know it sounds really odd, but the big thing is, don't fiddle as you're talking, Flory. The big thing is that lacquers, from a health point of view, terrible. You know, they're not nice. You should have a respirator. We're going to talk about that a little bit next week. But from my point of view is I'm in a good spray booth, a good extractor system. I change my filters very regularly. In fact, I'm about to do it again, and everything else like that. So I don't think it's going to be a health problem. If you're one of these guys doing a closed environment, you haven't got a respirator on and all the rest of it, and you don't have an extractor, then, you know, obviously just be a little bit careful of how you're using it. There was the theory, that's the best way to put this. There was the theory that I was saying, right, I'm going to be clean and I'm moving away from all the horrible products. The thing is, there is a good plus side to using lacquer paints. They are thinner by their nature. You know, when you spray like your standard, I don't know, like Fareoh metal coats. It's quite thick, sprays very nicely, but it's just lacking that little something, as we've said. Whereas you come along with AKs, which I think are enamel based, you know, they're very good. And then you've got other products which are lacquer based, are really well. Now, to be honest, I intend to have a go using the new Mr. Cut paint color stuff. I think they're from Czech. It's a Czech product, lovely looking colours, everybody raves about it, and I'm being asked every day, it seems, Phil, when are you going to put them on review? So I'm going to have to get some of those in. This particular primer, I'm not going to go out and endorse this and say it's brilliant, because let's face it, everyone's going to start thinking I just love everything. I have got a problem with certain primers we used before. If you might notice, I don't have them down here anymore because I've had problems with them, but Stynal Res, as good as it is, that's a classic example. This has got ball bearings in it and it's gone so thick it's like toothpaste. So that's why I don't like this, because I'm having to thin it and fight with it, and I can't even get the ball bearings to work in there. It's so thick it's gone like toothpaste. This stuff is lacquer based. I know how it works, so to speak, so that's why we're using it. And that, to be honest, why we've left it on here. And you know, I would show you on the camera. Now this has dried for a few minutes. Note to self, Flory, get a chair, buy a chair, buy a chair. Right, come on, if I can get this to work in, let me just try and zoom you in whilst it's fine. As you can see, we have no scratching in there whatsoever. And I made a complete dog's ear of all of that, you know, over the last couple of weeks as we've been working on this, just to try and blend it all through. And if we put on this side, you might remember it was pretty horrible, all of this section. None of it is nice. I don't know if you guys remember, but down here on the nose and in the windscreen, and I had big lumps and chunks and bites out of it all down the back here. If you look at that, that has had a rough, and I must say again, it is a rough paint job. There's nothing smooth about that, as you saw yourself. I literally just come and chucked it down and bunged it all on there, you know. But it is one of those things. Different products come along and you think to yourself, yeah, I really like that product, it's a really nice product and all the rest of it. And then something else comes along and you think, oh, that's even better. Sometimes just going back a couple of steps, that was just as good. And I know I've said this before, but my standard way of doing primer was to thin Mr. Surfacer. And I used to have a bottle floating around here somewhere. Here we are. Mr. Surfacer 1200. This thinned with lacquer thinners makes this, okay? And it works. It works extremely well. For you guys who use, carrying a bit up here, this stuff, okay, it's basically the same stuff. This stuff is absolutely beautiful. It's perfect. It works so very, very well. And to be honest, is this the white one or the grey one? This is the white. I'm going to give this as my top coat for this before we go in there with the orange paint, because obviously with a white underside works well, and that's why I'm holding off on this one. But this is fantastic stuff. It's just a really expensive way of doing it, and I prefer the control, if you like, on an airbrush rather than using a rattle can. But to be honest, that's going to get a coat of this before it goes into paint. Okay, because it's really easy. But there we go. I hope that explains. But as you can see, I do have up here, this is my cupboard up above, bottles of 400 up there, you see. So I was just thinking, well, look, I might as well use up what I've got. You know, I've gone out and I bought half a dozen at some point, so that's why I'm using this stuff. But it does have its place. It is very nice stuff, but it's not the most healthiest stuff to use. All right. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with this now for a good couple of hours. I'm probably going to run for another, I don't know, hour or so. Got to do the orders, then we got, obviously, I'm going to do the reveal, as you'll see in this in a minute. So that'll be on the main part of the show after this for the actual group build, because I know everyone's asking about it. So I'm thinking, oh, I better get on with it, better do it. So I'm going to get that done as well, and everything else. So say, a bit of a strange day, not a day I thought I was doing, but I'm actually really enjoying cracking on with that one. So it was a bit of a difficult day, but it's enabled me to crack on with this, which basically gets me up to the level Steve's at for doing the paintwork and all the bits and pieces. Now I've still got a little bit of re-riveting work to do, things like that, so I'm going to do that first thing in the morning, 9 o'clock, bright and early, with the Phil and Steve show. To say you can watch this, it's free to watch, so you can watch it via YouTube, direct, off of our Facebook page, or certainly off the Flory Models site and in the forum as well. So all the usual places we're going to be. So probably going to run to about midday. I know Steve's eager to get on with the paintwork. I'm almost there, so I think literally another hour in the morning I'll be into primer and paint as well, so we'll be pushing on nicely with that. Captain Phasma is with you as well. The review for that is up on the site, usual places as well. It's on our YouTube page as well. I really love it. I think the quality, again, it's Bandite, it's fantastic, it's amazing. But that cloak, the cloth one, can't speak today, that is truly shocking. It's awful, it's just not nice at all. But I think I may be doing that one soon. I do like it. It will look great in my display and everything else like that. And as I say, I've got a bit of a Star Wars theme coming up in a couple of weeks as well. All right. But now that time has come. Finally, I know we've been sitting here a while. I've got to thank a lot of the guys in the forum who helped Kane put this particular reveal video together. Done a fantastic job on it. It's not an easy thing to do. It's like a day's work for me to try and do it, to put it together. And Kane stepped forward and said he'd like to have a go at it. So I handed it all to him, and he got on with the help of a few of the guys in the forum of categorising, doing your names, various bits and pieces. He's done a stunning job on it. It's well worth sitting through it. It's a little bit long. It's about 15 minutes, but quite frankly, there's 172 entries gone into this one. I'm going to pick up all your medals and the bits and pieces next week. I might even take you along. You can go and see where they're done, because they're done locally to me, as you know. I try and keep things local to everything here at Flory Model, so we're going to get those sorted, and they will probably go out one day next week. I'll sit down for an evening stuffing envelopes. I've got all your addresses, and look, hey, I can prove it because I have them literally all here on tabs ready to go in. Got all your addresses down in here, so we're going to get that done. and we'll get those off to you next week as soon as those medals do come in. So until then, I'm going to leave you with that. So please join us tomorrow morning between 9 and midday UK time for Saturday morning modelling with Phil and Steve. We're going to be up, might even be on a little bit earlier, and we're going to be pushing on nicely with these. So until then, everybody, happy modelling, take care, and here is your fantastic reveal videos from I Must Be an Animal. Hello and welcome to the final reveal video for I Must Be an Animal group build. This was our summer 2016 group build, and my god, did we have some fantastic entries into this particular one. We actually had 172 completed, so one of our better group builds, okay, along those lines. But again, it's not about, you know, the builds themselves or everything else. It's about a group of modelers coming together, helping each other out, and again, it didn't fail. Nobody disappointed. Everybody was helping each other out, and we had some truly stunning builds in there. The quality of the work just goes up and up and up, but also it's the quality of your builds, the time you're taking to photograph them, to show to others to follow, to answering questions and everything else like that. Remember, everybody's a winner, so everybody's going to be sent one of our Flory Models medals in this nice little display case. You're also going to get the Flory Models Girl sticker, the normal Flory Models one, and everybody's going to be sent a set of medium skinny sticks as well, just for taking part in it. So everybody gets a prize because everybody is a complete winner. So there we go, that's enough from me. Let's have a look at your fantastic work.